Hey guys, so you ready for today's December 30th, 2022, 6 a.m. Central Time. This is a huge deal, which is why I'm doing a video on it. It's been a while, right guys? And I'm going to explain what happened here. I'm going to show you the IRS's press release as well as the notice they published in the Federal Register regarding this. But before I do that, first of all, a lot of people weren't even aware of this because one, they did not advertise this as being a positive thing when they passed the American Rescue Plan in 2021, that they had changed the threshold to $600. What did the threshold? First of all, this will apply to you, just so any of you know. This applies to you if you sell in a marketplace online, for example, Etsy, eBay, whatever. If you use PayPal, Square, any online third-party processors, okay, to get money for a product, they will also be giving you 1099Ks. So this is just for the average Joe, too. This isn't even like half-ass businesses that people may have on eBay or Etsy. This is going to affect so many people, and so many people are going to get 1099Ks who don't even that shouldn't apply to them, too. This is just a disaster that the Democrats did in 2021. Before, the threshold was $600 for many, many years. It was $20,000 and 200 transactions. The "and" is important there because if you sold one thing, for example, on eBay for $21,000, you did not get a 1099K and you would not be paying taxes on that $21,000 unless you chose to be an idiot and report it yourself. Because the "and" is the 200 transactions. So that was really nice. This, however, changed the 20,000 to 600 and the transactions to simply any transaction, one or many, equaling $600. So that's ridiculous. Let me put this out there, though. The IRS delaying this, first of all, they shouldn't have the power to do this, period. I'm thrilled that they are using the overreach power that they use for this particular situation, but they shouldn't have this power. The IRS did something similar regarding taxes, regarding Obamacare. When Obamacare was passed, the mandate tax, if you will, I believe they consider it a tax after SCOTUS ruled on it, saying that if you didn't have health insurance, you were getting, taxed this amount of money every time you paid your taxes. IRS delayed that for at least 2 years. Might have been a little longer. Technically, they can't do that. Technically, they can't do this. Congress is the one who changes deadlines. As soon as something goes into law and says as effective as blah, 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 December, let's say January 1st, 2022, I mean, the IRS can't be like, well, we're going to go ahead and delay the law. Yeah, that's not how that works. In fact, what is his name? One of the justices has brought this up, the overreach from agencies, the ABC agencies, using the Federal Register, posting notices, rule changes, all that stuff, that's totally overreach, and that's something that needs to be brought to the Supreme Court to basically be looked at. There's many cases out there. It's kind of I'm not going to sidetrack on that, but there's many cases out there that someone could bring a lawsuit against, like the ATF, for example, the recent thing they're doing with the braces. Yeah, that's something that a gun group could absolutely take up and sue and bring to SCOTUS eventually as it goes through the courts. And that would open up a can of fucking worms on what the ABC agencies are able to do and not do. So anyway, this is great news, however. So this is the press release. Oh, and by the way, just a heads up. If this ever does go into effect in the following year for 2024, when you file a 1099K, it's a separate form on your taxes. Like if you do TurboTax, it's another form. And additional forms cost money. So on top of paying the taxes on the $600, you will be paying an additional fee through, say, TurboTax to just write it down on paper and submit it. So that's also fun. If for some reason, just to give you a heads up, if you are some random seller, let's say on eBay, for example, and you sell enough stuff that equals $600, you will be paying the full tax amount on the $600, which I believe comes out to about 32%. So you're going to want to take that 32% of the money that you are getting and putting it aside, because when you end up filing your taxes and you see that the amount is much lower than you thought, or all of a sudden owe money, that's why. For those of you who are actually businesses, if you will, lack of a better term, or hobbies that got way too out of control, and you use your house for inventory and all kinds of stuff, those types of people are able to do a lot of deductions, bringing those numbers down and not owing as much money. But if you're just some random seller, watch out, be prepared to be paying stuff if this goes into effect for 2023, which will be the 2024 tax returns. IRS announces delay for implementation of 600 reporting threshold for third-party payment platforms, Forms 1099-K. This was dropped just before Christmas on Friday, December 23rd, 2022. It says, as a result of this delay, third-party settlement organizations will not be required to report tax year 2022 transactions on a Form 1099-K to the IRS or the payee for the lower $600 threshold amount enacted as part of the American Rescue Plan of 2021. This is what the commissioner, the IRS acting, I love it, means there isn't one. Commissioner Doug O'Donnell said, quote, "The IRS and Treasury heard a number of concerns regarding the timeline of implementation of these changes under the American Rescue Plan. To help smooth the transition and ensure clarity for taxpayers, tax professionals, and industry, the IRS will delay implementation of the 1099-K changes. The additional time will help reduce confusion during the upcoming 2023 tax filing season and provide more time for taxpayers to prepare and understand the new reporting requirements." Dun, 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 end quote. And then it says on here, it says the IRS notes the existing 1099-K threshold of $20,000 in payments from over 200 transactions will remain in effect. This was the notice that they published in the Register, Federal Register. If you go to the last couple pages is where it actually talks about postponing it, if you will, or delaying it. There it is. It's funny how this was written. I swear to God, I do not know how certain things get written in this government, whether it be congressional, from agencies, whatever, that people fuck this shit up so bad. And I'll show you what I mean. It says Section 3, transition period for enforcement and administration of compliance. Calendar year 2022 will be regarded as a transition period for purposes of IRS enforcement and administration, for these transactions, right? Then it says down here, the IRS will not regard calendar year 2022 as a transition period respect to the requirements of Section 6050W that were not modified by blah, blah, blah. It's just a side note. Anyway, it says, with respects to returns for calendar years beginning before January 1st, 2023, TPSO, which are those third-party, it's third-party transaction people like PayPal and eBay, is not required to report payments and settlements of third-party network transactions with respect to participating payee unless the gross amount aggravates payments to be reported exceeds $20,000 and the number of such transactions with that participating payee exceeds 200. The IRS will not assert penalties under blah law, failing to file or failing to furnish forms of 1099K unless the gross amount of aggregated payments to be reported exceeds 20,200 transactions. For the returns for calendar years beginning December 31st, 2022, a TPSO is required to report payments in settlement of third-party network transactions with any participating payee, good Lord, that exceeds a minimum threshold of $600 in aggravated payments regarding the number of such transactions. So here's the deal. So that's what the IRS is doing. So it's excellent news. But also, here's the deal. Next year, like for example, this year. I mean, this year, this entire time, you know, if you're a business, you're putting money away to pay those taxes. Or even if you're just some random seller, you were putting money away, hopefully, to pay those taxes on that $600 or more. Now, you're going to have a lot of money sitting over, aren't you, by the end of this year, if you were doing that. So basically what I'm trying to say is they're going to, if the IRS does this and Congress doesn't do something about getting rid of it, and the IRS decides to extend this beyond 2023 of January 1st, 2023, they're not going to notify you until December of 2023, just as they did this year with 2022. So everyone's going to be putting money aside all year round if this is going to affect you. And you're not going to know till December. So you might as well consider it a Christmas gift, somewhat of a savings account. I don't know what else to call it. But you'll have a little bit of cushion, extra cushion, if you will, if they continue to delay this. Now, do I foresee them delaying it? I have no idea, because when this passed, it was so absurd, I didn't even believe it. I actually needed to go into the bill that passed, that finalized and was signed, to read they actually changed this, because $600 is such a low threshold. And saying that it's any transaction, whether it's 1 or 2,000 transactions equaling that, is absurd as well. I mean, the $600, it's nuts. $600 is nothing. Absolutely nothing. It will affect so many people that are just random, get rid of crap on eBay people that they don't want anymore. It's going to affect you guys. Crazy. I mean, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. I mean, the government just wants to rake in as much, revenue as they can. If they can't, we're going to be going even further into debt, which we are, because we're not able to pay for any of these $1 trillion bills that we have passed, especially the most recent omnibus bill that was for 2023 fiscal year. That was $1.5 trillion and had some ridiculous shit in it, and specifically stated that they cannot use any money, period, for our border to upgrade anything, including surveillance or equipment. That was cute. But we are paying people in the Middle East to protect their borders, as well as Europe. And there's other things in there that are absolutely absurd. And sending another $40+ billion to Ukraine in that bill, too, is absurd. Anyone who watched, I'm totally done with this video, but anyone who watched Zelensky stand on the House floor in a sweatshirt, I do not give a shit if he is trying to keep a certain image, okay? Like, that's his costume this whole time. He's always been in that situation where he's wearing a sweater, and sometimes he wears like a bulletproof vest or something walking around Kyiv. That is highly inappropriate, and actually quite illegal, or against the House rules, if you will, want to call it illegal, to come into the House, period, without a jacket and a tie. And the only main reason I know that is because Jim Jordan hates wearing a tie and hates wearing a jacket, which is why when you see him on TV or any interviews, He does not have one. He literally keeps a tie and a jacket in his office for when he needs to hit the House floor, because that's the rules. This motherfucker walks up in front of Congress in a sweatshirt, basically begging for money. You know, as far as I'm concerned, it was lobbying. It was not panhandling. It was lobbying our Congress for money. And boy, did he get what he wanted. But beside the point, it was highly inappropriate for him to wear what he wore. It was highly inappropriate and strange for him to do that in general, requesting money, especially this massive amount of money. He didn't say a number, but you knew exactly what he was talking about. From another country to their Congress, you know, or their parliament or anybody else. I mean, we are just being taken by the Ukrainians as their piggy bank. And it's absurd. It's absurd. And I have very strong feelings for that now. If we want to send weapons, the whole situation where we don't want to send offensive weapons and certain defensive weapons, like they're taking their sweet ass time to finally agree to sending the Patriot defense missile system to Ukraine. They said, no, we're not going to send that yet, or at all. And then they said, you know, recently, oh yeah, we're going to send it. And Putin's all pissed off about it. It's like they keep changing the rules over there. It's like, if we're going to engage to this degree, I mean, how do you not see the United States getting in some sort of issue with Russia or any of their allies regarding this situation and our support of Ukraine? So, yeah, the most recent omnibus bill sent a lot of money overseas, and not for us here. And obviously, the 600 reporting threshold changed from the 20,200 transactions because they need every fucking penny they possibly can to pay down our debt, or as far as I'm concerned, keep up with our debt. Not even paying it down, just keeping up with their spending. I'm really interested to see how this next 118th Congress goes with the GOP in control of the House and the Senate with Democrats and a split government. It will either be interesting or very boring. Gridlock can often be very boring, but we shall see. If the Republicans are just going to do a bunch of investigations, they're going to get backlash for sure from the American people. I'd be bent out of shape. I mean, they want to do that stuff too, in addition to legislative situations, and throw shit at the Senate and make the Senate not bring it up and have Schumer be the one to decide to table those bills and put them on the calendar and never bring them up for a vote, then that will be saying something. Because all of the things the GOP, for example, if the GOP, because they passed, the Democrats passed, also that there will be expanding the IRS, not only financially, but also by the 87,000 agents that they want to hire through a bill that happened through the Democrats. The GOP claims, who knows if they will, that they're going to overturn that and say, 87,000 new agents, we're pulling the funding for that as the House. You know, they're the purse, right? And they send it over to the Senate. I don't know what Schumer will do with all these things if the Republicans are effective in the House in sending that type of stuff. Border related, inflation related, energy related, pipeline related, everything the Democrats have ruined or don't agree with that they've done the last 2 years. A lot of people will say it's political stunts, especially the Democrats. They are so excellent at spinning shit. It's a political stunt. The GOP is sending us bills that will never pass. Just political stunt. Well, technically, that has to be their only way of doing it is basically a, quote, political stunt. Because your ass is making it one by not bringing it up for a vote. Because it would be legitimate paperwork to pass on. So the GOP always gets shafted when it comes to spin because, man, the Democrats are like screaming banshees. And they absolutely know how to get a warped ass message out there, whether it be true or 100% false. I mean, it's unbelievable how well they are able to get the American taxpayers or American voters, whatever, to actually agree and hear them. When the GOP tries to say stuff, we are entirely, and I say we because I'm a constitutional conservative, I'm far from a Democrat, are horrible at messaging. Horrible. We talk facts, and those facts are easily backed up by the facts. And facts are not sexy. Facts are boring. What's sexy and is a shiny little light that people will pay attention to is something dramatic that will cause an emotional distress and is said in such a way that it is so dramatic that they make it sound like your world's going to fucking end. And the Democrats are so good at that. Anyway, the IRS delays $600 reporting threshold for 2022 taxes. Like I said, anyone out there, you should be putting aside at least 32% to be paying on any type of taxes if they continue this. Or if you hit this threshold, 20,200 transactions, which will be in effect for this tax year, you will get that 1099K. Do not be surprised in the following year if this does not get delayed or overturned and all of a sudden you have to owe money to the IRS and you didn't put that money aside. This is Are You Ready For It? Take care, guys. Have a great morning.